Julia reimburses yet another disappointed customer. Once the ski season's over, he and his colleagues tend to find work as barmen or waiters. Now those job opportunities have gone too.
Nous, là, du coup, on sait pas trop exactement comment ça va se passer encore.
We really don't know how it'll all turn out, he says, but it's clear that when everything's shut, we'll all be unemployed. Our contracts are renewed weekly, so unemployment is the next direct stop.
Directement.
I ask him what he hopes to do next. We've little less to hope for, he replies. My first concern now is thinking, are we going to get stuck here in a lockdown in the ski resort, unable to get home but unemployed and confined here? We don't know anymore.
On n'en sait pas plus tout de suite.
That was our correspondent Emma Jane Kirby reporting from Les Arcs in the French Alps. And that is all for this edition of News Hour from me and the rest of the team. Bye for now.
Inspirations Awards. We're looking for ordinary people with extraordinary stories. Unsung heroes who maybe showed compassion where it was really needed, battled against the odds to follow their dreams, or made a personal sacrifice to help their community. If you know someone like that, go to bbcworldservice.com/inspirations to nominate them by 12 GMT on April the 9th. Our terms and privacy notice are there too. Perhaps your hero could be lifting a BBC Inspirations Award. And in 30 minutes, the conversation with Kim Chekanetso, a 22-year-old climate activist whose experiences with extreme weather patterns in Uganda ignited her anger. Speaks to an 18-year-old Belgian who's become a leading youth campaigner. You'll hear why young women are leading the fight against climate change. This is the BBC World Service, the world's radio station. The world can feel like a frightening place. But in the face of so much bad news, are we in danger of becoming numb to it all? For the BBC World Service, I'm Ailith Hart. This week on The Y Factor, we're looking at compassion fatigue. What is it? How does it manifest? And what impact could it have on all of us? Emergency medical staff deal with trauma every day. But is there a price to pay for caring too much?
During that whole moment and time period, I was emotionally numb. I'd lost touch with the gravity of the situation, and I knew I was in trouble.
What about charities? Their existence depends on us caring. So could they also be making it worse? So they give their £5, but they also walk away feeling very ineffectual that they can't do anything to help change the bigger problem of global poverty. That's the Y Factor, coming up after the news. BBC News with Sue Montgomery. The head of the World Health Organization has issued an urgent plea to governments everywhere to take firmer action to combat the coronavirus pandemic, which has spread to most countries and infects at least 170,000 people. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus emphasized the need to increase testing.
You cannot fight a fire blindfolded. And we cannot stop this pandemic if we don't know who is infected. We have a simple message for all countries. Test, test, test.
His plea comes as governments across the globe are ramping up increasingly drastic measures to reduce the transmission of infection by halting everyday social interaction, with some going into complete lockdown. The French President Emmanuel Macron has said France is in a state of war against the coronavirus and has introduced further restrictions he said were unprecedented in peacetime. In a televised address, he's forbidden people from leaving home except for essential reasons from midday Tuesday or face punishment. Here's Garfield is in Paris.
This was President Macron's second TV appearance in 4 days, and he made it because the situation in France is continuing to deteriorate. The numbers of those infected are rising exponentially, but worse, said the president, was the realization gathered from the scenes in Paris of the weekend of people mingling in parks and along the River Seine that the urgency of the crisis has still not sunk in. He said any infringement of the rule will be punished. Only thus, said the president, can France hope to limit the wave of infection that's about to crash down.
President Macron also said the external borders of the European Union and the wider group of nations that belong to the Schengen zone would be closed from Tuesday midday. He said the measure would last 30 days. Earlier, the head of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, said it would stop non-essential travel, but that returning EU citizens, workers who commute across borders, and people delivering goods would be exempt. The German Chancellor Angela Merkel has announced the closure of non-essential shops as well as bars and most leisure facilities. Restaurant opening hours are to be limited and religious services or gatherings suspended. Meanwhile, in Britain, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson called on people to stop non-essential travel and social contact. He urged them to work from home and avoid pubs, clubs and theatres. The British Chief Medical Officer, Professor Chris Whitty, said the measures were here to stay.
We obviously need to do things that are effective, but they also have to be sustainable, because this is going to go on for some time. And I think we should not be under any illusions that if we just do this for a couple of weeks, that is sufficient. This is going to have to be a prolonged period.
World News from the BBC. Italy says another 349 people with coronavirus have died over the last day, the latest in a string of grim figures. It's the second worst daily total worldwide since the pandemic began, and not far off that also recorded in Italy on Sunday. The US President Donald Trump has issued new guidelines to help fight the outbreak. He called on Americans to avoid groups of more than 10 people, avoid bars and restaurants, and only travel if essential. He also encouraged people to educate their children at home.
We've made the decision to further toughen the guidelines and blunt the infection now. We'd much rather be ahead of the curve than behind it. If everyone makes this change or these critical changes and sacrifices now, we will rally together as one nation and we will defeat the virus and have a big celebration all together.
He said the new guidelines would be applied for the next 15 days and were designed to slow the spread of the virus. Share prices in New York have tumbled, closing almost 13% down in the day. This came despite the Federal Reserve slashing its interest rate in an extraordinary Sunday intervention to counter the impact of coronavirus. The slump in New York followed sharp declines in Asia, excluding Japan, and in Europe. London and Frankfurt were both around 5% lower. Madrid slipped by 8%. The United Arab Emirates has sent 2 plane loads of gloves, surgical masks and other medical supplies to Iran to help combat the new coronavirus. Iran is now one of the world's worst affected countries, with more than 14,000 cases and at least 850 deaths. Iran has asked rival countries not to let politics stand in the way of humanitarian responses. BBC News.
If you could feel me for just 1 hour, if we could find a way to get inside each other's mind.
I'm standing outside what is a giant ship just plonked in the middle of a pedestrian street in a market town in Cumbria in the north of England. It's absolutely huge, it's about the size of a small house, and just around the corner there is a sign that says "A mile in my shoes. Welcome to our shoe shop. Please come in and try walking a mile in someone else's shoes, literally." This is an exhibition by the world's first empathy museum.